Well, not sure what French for get out of jail is, but perhaps
Di Maria.
That's what PSG perhaps did. Yeah, Angel Di Maria may well be the translation. It looked bad for Thomas Tuchel's side until the 93rd minute, Craig.
They had 5 minutes of injury time added on, and they rescued it all the way from their own penalty box up the left-hand side, where Neymar skipped the defender, got on the front foot, ball found its way over to the right-hand side, and then I know Stevie was perplexed at the full-back Sean Di Maria on his left foot and curled it in the top corner.
And Napoli, Carlo Ancelotti, so close to a win that would have almost put them into the knockout round.
I mean, they'll be so disappointed. I mean, they were the better side. I thought they outplayed PSG, and to lose a goal, the last kick of the ball, pretty much, and then the way it happened as well. I mean, really, is that a surprise? Di Maria's going to cut in on his left-hand side. I mean, shocking way to lose a goal, but it's still a point.
Yeah.
And PSG struggling.
Did they deserve a point though, Shaka? PSG?
Oh, PSG? I don't think so. I thought Napoli were the better of the two teams by some distance, especially when you consider the heartbreak of match day 2 for them to come into Paris and dominate the game the way they did. At the same time, you look at PSG's first goal, you see the hard luck in that there. Napoli have to feel hard done by, but this group is still wide open for the top 3.
Absolutely is. PSG have to go to Naples, remember, on that match day 4 for all your Champions League news. Keep it right here, ESPNFC.com. Well, it was a rerun of the Champions League semi-final, the epic Champions League semi-final from 2010. Not quite as epic this time. In the end, a comfortable win for Barcelona, Craig. They never really were that tested, were they?
Lots of shots of Lionel Messi in the crowd, or in the technical area, wherever he was, strapped up. How are they going to cope without him? Classico at the weekend. Yeah, I think just did enough. Suarez was key to everything they were doing as well. Deserved the win and no real surprise. Yeah,
1-0 until 7 minutes from time when Jordi Alba made it safe, but they never looked in any trouble, Barca, did they?
No, they always looked very comfortable. Clearly that bit of magic is missing when you don't have somebody like Messi in your side, but they were more than adequate and had way more than Inter had to offer. So it's going to take a better side than Inter for us to figure out how good this Barcelona side can be without Messi.
What did you make of a Messi-less Barcelona for the first time?
I'm encouraged by what you're seeing. Yes, the questions will always be, can Barcelona cope without Lionel Messi or life after Lionel Messi? You saw Suarez looking something back to his best, maybe not his best, but getting involved. I also thought you saw Coutinho step up and kind of willingly look to fill those shoes. And on the surface of it, a good Barcelona performance, a good result when you weren't really sure what to expect.
Yeah, still lots to look forward to. The return fixture, remember, on match day 4. Keep it right here on ESPNFC.com for all your Champions League news.
Unfortunately, he hasn't got much support in Spain because of his antics in the summer and how he joined Real Madrid. He hasn't got much support at the Bernabeu at the moment. Unfortunately for Julian Lopetegui, I think he's dead man walking. I think he's waiting to go.
Well, your old chairman, Florentino Perez, is a notorious axe wielder, Mac, there, isn't it? Is it win or bust for Lopetegui this weekend?
Well, if he's still in charge by the weekend, probably, mate. It's going to be very difficult. The fact that they're going to go to the Camp Nou and play, they're not in good form, as you rightly said, low on confidence. Barcelona played very well tonight without Lionel Messi. They won quite comfortably against Inter Milan. The Clasico's a different match, as you well know, the most watched football match across the globe. And if he is in charge and they lose, I think that'll be it. I think he'll be gone by Monday, Tuesday. I think everybody knows that.
And in your mind, Macca, who are the alternatives right now to lead Real Madrid?
Well, ideally, I think everybody knows they'd love Pochettino. I think that's an impossible task. People have mentioned Antonio Conte, but I mean, that's just the wrong style of football that Real Madrid could play. Santiago Solari, I think the number 2s at Real Madrid Castilla, they're playing well this year. He's lined up, but I don't know whether he's in favour with the players. So it's a job that, to be very honest, it's a job that not a lot of people want. I mean, in the past, it was a job that everybody craved and everybody wanted on their CV. There's not that many takers at the moment, but the way the team are playing and what's happening in the dressing room.
And just quickly, finally, Macca, give us your prediction. How's the Clasico going?
Well, I think Barcelona win the Clasico because they're at home. I always feel like that. It's such an important fixture when you're at home, and I think 100,000 people, the way Barcelona are playing, I think they'll win.
We always thought this was going to be a three-horse race, and it's proving to be that way. Liverpool, obviously comfortable winners tonight against Red Star Belgrade, Stevie. They have to go to Red Star next. You got to be happy with where they're sitting at the moment, top of the group, with the destiny in their own hands.
Well, it's hard to see. It's hard to see how they don't get another 3 points against Red Star. That means they will absolutely be in the driving seat with 9 points. And again, you're sitting here thinking, if they have to go to PSG and get a result, you know they can.
Yeah.
If they have to beat Napoli at home, you know they can. But they probably won't have to do either of those things, because PSG and Napoli are going to lose points in the next game. So Liverpool 100%
depending on what happens when they go to Belgrade, and I would expect Liverpool to win. I can't believe Napoli dropped points there, but they did. I expect Liverpool to win there. Depending on what happens in between the Napoli PSG game, Liverpool could go to Paris and potentially knock them out of this competition. I mean, that's how tight this group is, and that's how perilous a position is for Paris Saint-Germain if Liverpool win in Belgrade.
Are there still some twists and turns to come in this group,
a whole lot of twists and turns, and twists that we didn't see coming. Now, you look at this PSG team, when the draw is made, you think they're favourites to win the group just by matter of the names they put on the team sheet. Yet, they now go away from home, concede 3. They concede 2 at home against the likely opponents and finishing in the top 3. And as poor as they've been defensively, I just feel that at times, well, today Mbappe didn't have his shooting boots on. He can be a whole lot better. And for me, you only see Neymar in spells. They've got to tighten up defensively, because they can't just keep scoring goals late on in a hope to get a point.
Macca, obviously it was fairly straightforward for Liverpool at home today. What's your degree of comfort with where they now sit in Group C?
Well, like most people, to be honest, Adrian, and what the lads have said, you concur. You know, they should beat Belgrade over there, away from home. The way they beat them today, they beat them really comfortably. It shouldn't be a problem over there, but they have to be professional. And then, you know, they should qualify. The better sides, you'd always fancy them to win at home against Napoli if it come to that. You'd always fancy them to get a result in Paris if it come to that. You know, Paris Saint-Germain are the big team. They can be devastating at times, particularly at home. It's their away form and their lack of drive sometimes. That is the big question. They have to find something when they go to Napoli to get a result over there. Or, as I said before, they're going to be out. That's going to be the big shock, because if they go out in the group stages, there's going to be huge repercussions in Paris. There will be.
Yeah, Liverpool could set a mark in this group. They could really put a mark down. If you think back to last year when they got to the final, think back to the group stages. By this competition standards, it was a pretty easy group they were in, right? So they got a nice track to get through initially. You look at this. This is the group. Everybody wants to see, but nobody wants to be in because of the 3 teams. And if they are to top this group and maybe potentially knock PSG out, and they're still going well in the Premier League, there's no better start to the season than that.
Gab, what's your sense of the dynamics now moving forward, the last 3 games in Group C?
My sense is that you're all extremely confident about Liverpool's chances.
Well, the top of the league, and they're going to Belgrade next.
Yes, Liverpool. Well, that's fine. So they go and they win in Belgrade, and they're on 9 points. But you know, equally, yes, you could say, well, you'd fancy them to beat PSG, because you know what? You still have to go and play these games, and I wouldn't be 100%. I also think it's really important to finish top of the group. Now, the performance today was great. I think it was inevitable after, if you look at the run of games that Liverpool had early in the season, I think Jurgen Klopp expected a dip. That dip came. If you were to go back and say, you know, over the last 5-6 games, you know, how often have Liverpool actually played well? Maybe the second half against Chelsea, arguably the Man City game.
Hold on a second, you know, Gab. You're forgetting something. You're forgetting something that's really important here. You're throwing in, well, they haven't played particularly well. I'll tell you what, PSG haven't played particularly well, but guess what? They're not winning games. It's about winning games. And if you look at this group, Liverpool and Napoli are miles ahead as a team. Maybe not individually, but Liverpool and Napoli are miles ahead of PSG as far as a team plays. If the front 3 for PSG don't perform, then you know what? I ain't putting a penny on either of them against Liverpool or Napoli in the upcoming games. Listen, because that's what they're all about. They ain't a team, they're individuals.
Stevie, if you look at the way, and I appreciate you're going to say, well, but it's only Ligue 1. Yeah, it's only Ligue 1. But PSG have actually played really well, and they've played really well as a team in France for the past 4 or 5 games. And it really looked as if Thomas Tuchel had turned the corner. Now, tonight, that didn't pan out. I think it might have had a little bit to do with Napoli also playing really well, because it's starting to bug some people that, Napoli go and beat Liverpool. People are like, well, that's the worst Liverpool have ever played. And now, tonight, they come within seconds of beating Paris Saint-Germain. And, it's Paris Saint-Germain, they're terrible. They're a bunch of selfish egomaniacs. You still have to go out and play the games. I'm glad you guys are also confident. I guarantee you, Jurgen Klopp isn't sitting there planning his knockout stage. He knows that he can't take anything for granted because, you know what? They get to play Red Star Belgrade. Well, guess what? They're not the only ones playing Red Star Belgrade. Napoli and Paris Saint-Germain get to play them too.
I loved how you come out with this. Oh, they play Ligue 1. Well, guess what? That's half the problem. That's a huge part of the problem. Rabiot is absolutely stranded today. Him and his partner in the middle of the park. And do you know why? Because in Ligue 1, they stroll around and they pass the ball and they look great and they look pretty, blah, blah, blah. When it comes to a proper team, when they play against proper teams, they disappear. They've beaten one proper team that I can remember recently, and that was when they beat Barcelona a couple of years ago. Ever since then, when they play a proper side, they get beat or they draw.
Right then, boys, extra time. Big night in the Champions League. Shaka, Stevie and Craig with me. We've got Gab Marcotti on board as well. We'll start with perhaps one of the most impressive performances, which was Borussia Dortmund. We saw the highlights. They smacked Atletico 4-0. Question about them, can they back up their impressive form at the moment and go through to the knockout round and perhaps upset some of the big boys?
They are going to go through the knockout round.
Yeah.
There's not a doubt about that. Depends who they get, is basically the answer.
Doesn't it always hit in a cup competition?
But yeah, I mean, they could potentially be quarterfinals. Yeah, I don't think any better than that.
Could they do a Liverpool? Reach a final, Steve?
I don't think so.
No.
No, I think clearly the problems are defensively. I mean, they are pretty special right now going forward. And you do look at this result and think, you've got to be a good side to beat Atleti by 4. At the same time, it looked like it was one of those nights for Atleti. So I'm not quite ready to hang my hat on Dortmund yet.
Just a bit of a collector's item, Gab. Atleti being spanked 4-0. Does it give you confidence that Dortmund could be contenders come March, April, May?
When is it?
I was thinking back I was thinking back to the last time that Atleti gave up 4 goals, and it obviously happened in the Champions League final. But prior to that, I mean, in an actual league game, I think you got to go back further. Maybe hasn't even happened in the Simeone era. I think Atleti will be fine and will rebound. But man, this Borussia Dortmund team. I actually think with Lucien Favre at the helm, we think of them as shaky at the back, and there's obviously a ton of youth back there, and they have so much young firepower going forward. But Lucien Favre is a really, really smart manager. I think the addition of Axel Witsel in midfield just gives them an extra shield. And I think against the right opponent, he can go back to being the old Lucien Favre and shut it down. So, can they do a Liverpool? That's setting the bar really, really high. But if they get things going their way, I think this team has a very, very high ceiling.
If they go and sign somebody like Van Dijk the way Liverpool did, then maybe yes. Because that was the difference with Liverpool. His signing is the only reason, or one of the major reasons they actually got to the final.
At the same time, I don't think there's anybody playing as well with pace than as Borussia Dortmund. And the usual suspects, you think of Real Madrid, the Bayern Munich, okay, a good showing from Barcelona. Nobody's been that outstanding either. So as we said, the right answer, I guess, is why not?
Other side of that coin, Craig, question about Diego Simeone. Has he stayed too long at Atletico? Or are they just going through a rough patch?
Well, they're probably going to qualify out of the group, and they are going all right in La Liga after a slowish start. but then the others have faltered, so they're very much still in the title race. It's interesting he brought the guy who's been the linchpin for them, Diego Godin, who's not been playing recently. He came back into the team tonight. I don't know if there was many other changes, but I'm not blaming it all on Diego Godin, but clearly Simeone doesn't see him as the rock that he once was.
Yeah. Been there the best part of a decade now, Steve. At what point is it too long? Or do you just push on?
But they're in the title race.
They're in the title race, and the joy of the Champions League at this stage is you can afford to go and get beat 4-0 and still qualify. So it's really all about qualifying, and nothing's changed. There's not a side who, when they get to the knockout stages, want to play Atleti. So they're still in that. They're still in that realm.
He's had his chances to move on, hasn't he, in that decade? But he seems so tied to Atletico.
Simeone's fingerprints are all over this football club in terms of what they do off the field and in particular what they do on it. One bad result doesn't mean that somehow you rip that up. Regardless of this result, Simeone has been outstanding for Atletico Madrid. And long may that continue. Okay, they take a dip, they bounce back. Who knows? You well got out of the group, and who knows what next year has in store for them. Real didn't win their group last season, and we all know how that finished for them.
Gab, do you want to weigh in on this, on Simeone? Is it just a little rough patch for Atletico? As the boys say, they're still in the title race very much.
I think it's a bit of a rough patch. They had one at the very start of the season as well. There's a certain evolution to the team. Obviously, Rodri, as the long-term replacement for Gabby, that's been touch and go. Thomas Lemar too. You bring him on board. He's somebody who's got so much quality. Part of the idea is to change the way the team plays a little bit. Less up and down, maybe more possession even. I think these things take time to metabolize. Throw in Griezmann, long season with the World Cup, slower start. No, I think they'll be just fine. I think they'll be exactly the kind of team you do not want to be playing in the knockout rounds.
Right. All right. Maybe a little harsh, talking about a manager having a tough time at the moment. How bad do Spurs have to be for Mauricio Pochettino, let's say, to be in trouble? I think Jose's gone way too far with this question, but what do you make of Pochettino's position right now?
Well, it's interesting because we had Steve McManaman on the show for 5 or 6 minutes, and he was talking about Lopetegui maybe not even getting it to the weekend, to the Clásico before he loses his job, and how he thought Pochettino would be one of the front runners. I'm not saying he's not. Clearly, the Champions League is at this moment in time is hurting for them. What I would say though is they're on 21 points in the Premier League, and off the top of my head, I think that is 2 points behind the leaders. So they're very much still in that at the moment. I don't for 1 minute think they're going to be champions at the end of the season, but Champions League, yeah, that's not going particularly well at the moment. Premier League, that's going not too bad. So I wouldn't say it has been a disaster for Tottenham.
Gab, what do you make of Spurs at the moment?
I mean, if they win this weekend, they're top of the league. I don't know what more anybody wants, and this, despite the fact that arguably their second most important leader on the team, Iñár Vertonghen, has been out and will be out for some time. Dele Alli, one of their best attacking players, is out, and he might come back this weekend. And Christian Eriksen has also been out for the last couple of games. I think they'll be just fine. I don't think you have to worry about it. And as far as Pochettino getting in trouble, what would it take? I think it would take them slipping in near the relegation zone, because given the size of the contract he signed, there's no way I think that Spurs would be tempted to let him go unless something really, really bad happens.
I mean, they know they know potentially they might get compensation for him down the line at a bigger club. Pochettino inevitably might happen. Yeah. But as Gab said, just to clear up that question, he's never getting sacked in a million years. I mean, Pochettino might get some heat in the next few weeks if the Champions League's a failure, and if he dips in the Premier League, he might get some heat, not particularly from Daniel Levy, but from the fans and the media. But he ain't getting the sack.
Let's keep in mind as well, Spurs haven't bought anybody for 2 years. What manager at the top end of a major league in Europe can say as much? And as much as Pochettino has played the part and kind of sung the party line and I'm happy with the squad, you know, any manager battling in any type of league of this stature, you need to reinforce your squad. And he hasn't been able to do so. He has somehow been able to keep them competitive. And all of a sudden, a 2-2 draw away to PSV is going to get him sacked. I couldn't disagree more.
Well, Hugo Lloris was a big part of that draw. Jacob wants your thoughts on Lloris, his overall inconsistency. Makes great saves, but fails far too often when it comes to sweeper keeper duty.
Yeah, listen, a few years ago, I thought Hugo Lloris was, without question, in the top 5 goalkeepers in the world. But of late, that struggled. I think he's made some mental errors in his decisions, and even amazingly in his shot stopping. He hasn't been the greatest in terms of distribution, but I thought he's dealt well with that. And, you know, if you don't have it, I guess you can never lose it. But you know, Hugo Lloris is coming to the end of his time at a club with the ambitions of Spurs. Saying that, I'm still not quite, there still aren't that many who are poised to replace him, or who can replace him, but they've got to start thinking and looking long term.
What's he now, top 6?
7.
The sliding scale. It's always a sliding scale.
He did win the World Cup. He did just win the World Cup.
Yes.
I know, his decision making has been sketchy.
Particularly since he came back from injury, it seems.
Well, he's had a run-in with the law as well. I think there's other factors. I don't know. He hasn't been as consistent as he has been before.
Or maybe Gab can enlighten us. What are those other factors, Gab?
You know what? I think he appeals to, you know, he's a great shot stopper. He's a leader. He comes off his line. He appeals to a certain type of person who likes a certain type of goalkeeper. If you talk to the goalkeeping fraternity, it's very much split. I think there's people who love him, and there's people who think that he's been overrated for some time. I defer to goalkeepers like Xhaka. But in my opinion, I'm not even sure he's top 10 in the world. And I think, in fact, if you look at the fact that there's a number of other guys, and I'm thinking of Neuer as the obvious one, who we would have automatically put in the top 5 until very recently, and basically had a whole really difficult time for a long time. You factor those guys in, who I presume you would still take ahead of Hugo Lloris. You factor the guys who are kind of always there or thereabouts, like De Gea, like Courtois. You factor in a guy like Oblak. You know, you keep counting. All of a sudden, Alisson, Ederson. All of a sudden, you know, there's actually, I think, a whole bunch of keepers who maybe can stake a stronger claim on the top 10 than Hugo Lloris.
And the guy at Chelsea. Did Gab mention him? I don't know, but
that was a long list.
Kepa. We'll call him Kepa because I'm not.
We're not venturing into his last.
Not venturing into the.
Leave that for Stevie. We leave that for Stevie.
Get Navas.
Commentators.
Come get Navas from Madrid.
Good shout. I love Navas.
You love Ospina too.
Not as much as Navas. I do love Navas.
Right, we're done. We all set.
Right, we've gone through every goalkeeper in Europe. So
I might make a comeback.
We're golfing tomorrow.
We are done for the day. Yes.
We don't get out of here.
9:30 tea time. At which point?
Well, don't tell them where.
No, it may be a little frosty. Steve can only play 9 because he's got to be on this show tomorrow. You can catch it on ESPN Plus.
PSV 2, Spurs 2. Good game this one. Spurs in control at 2-1, Stevie, but Hugo Lloris sent off, and they just shot themselves in the foot again.
Yeah, they did, and again it's Lloris. 2-1 up, seemingly coasting. You know, I'd got through some things that went against them during the game. Sanchez's goal, which was disallowed, which shouldn't have been.
Yep.
But they got themselves in a position to see the game out and win it. And a horrible decision from Lloris, comes racing out his goal when he should have stayed, brings down the opposition, gets himself a red card, completely turns this game round for PSV.
PSV didn't have a shot in the second half. Spurs were really good. They really came out the traps. But one mistake has really cost them, and it could cost them a place in the knockout stage.
I would have to say that right now they are not favourite at all, ahead of certainly Inter to qualify, and they only have themselves to blame again. This Spurs side over the last 2 or 3 seasons have become the nearly team for me. Every time they get themselves in a good position, not just in the Champions League, but in every other competition, they drop the ball. And on this occasion, it was the goalkeeper.
It's funny, you talk about the last 2 or 3 seasons they've shot themselves in the foot. This Champions League campaign, even beginning with the Inter game when they were ahead, and should have seen that one out as well.
Well, not only have the players made mistakes, but I think the manager has as well. That first game, he didn't play his full team. I mean, seriously. The Inter games were always going to be the major games as far as those two teams to qualify, particularly Spurs. And they've messed it up every which way you want, on the field, off the field. And I'll be shocked if Spurs now qualify from this group.
Just one final question. Going forward in the Premier League, it's important now that Eriksen's back. His creativity can really help the likes of Harry Kane.
Yeah, I mean, Harry Kane needs to be in and around the penalty box where he can do what he does best, and that's put the ball in the net. He scored one tonight. Should have scored another one with a header, I thought. But yeah, get him in the box, let Eriksen do what he does, and that will go some way to fix the problems that Spurs have of getting across that final hurdle.
PSV 2, Spurs 2, the biggest winners from this one, Barcelona and Inter. Thursday's big games in the Europa League. Let's begin with AC Milan taking on Betis. Stevie Nicol, what you got?
Because they're at home, I'm going to take Milan, and because they have to bounce back after that crushing loss in the last kick of the game, pretty much, against Inter. So I'm going AC Milan.
Okay, I will agree with you there. This next one's kind of hard to predict because we don't know what the Arsenal lineup's going to be. Sporting against Arsenal.
The form Arsenal are in right now, it's very difficult to bet against them. I know they're away from home, but I just think they'll have too much quality, and I'm going to go, this is an Arsenal win as well for me over Sporting.
Both teams have won their opening 2. I'll say a draw in that one. Any doubt whatsoever that Chelsea don't beat Batty? Okay.
No, absolutely not. Not in question.
This is a good one, this next one. Marseille against Lazio.
I'm going to go with Lazio. They play good football. They play good attacking football. I don't think they've had the results so far that their play's deserved. I'm not so sure Marseille are anything other than just a decent team. So I'm going to go for the away one, and I'm going to go Lazio.
I think both teams will win the respective home games, match days 3 and 4. This is like the entree for Celtic because their big game, the massive games on Sunday against Hearts in the Scottish League Cup. So for their entree...
You get a tongue-in-cheek there?
Slightly.
I hope so. Hearts, who are they?
Enough.
What league are they in?
How many times did you beat them when you were at
Is that a friendly?
Quiet. No, it's a semi-final of the Cup. RB Leipzig against Celtic.
Celtic in Europe this year have been nothing short of disastrous, in my opinion.
Says the former Rangers fan.
No, I still support Rangers. Oh, yeah. So I'm going to go for a Leipzig win.
There's the shock.
Hi.
There's the shock. I'll happily let Celtic win that one if Hearts can beat them on Sunday. Come on, the Hearts. Come on. Going to start today's transfer rater alongside Stevie Nicol with Jose Mourinho. If you're Florentino Perez at Real Madrid, do you go back to someone you've had before?
I go back to someone I've had before if it was an outstanding success. But the truth is, when Mourinho left Madrid, it was an absolute shambles. It's kind of turning into what's going on at United right now. So I see no reason whatsoever why anybody at Real Madrid would want Mourinho back. So no.
Okay, I'll have that one. Griezmann came out last summer, just before the World Cup, and said he was staying at Atleti. For how long? PSG have been linked.
Until PSG want him. Until either Neymar goes, or Mbappe goes, or Cavani goes. Whilst all 3 of them are still at PSG, he isn't going to PSG. So really, it just depends on what happens with those 3 players over the next 12 months.
So it's a no for now?
Correct.
Okay. Sandro, do Man City need him?
No, they don't need him because they got Benjamin Mendy. But I see at the bottom of the board here, it's got Mendy to PSG. So I'm going to say that Sandro depends on Mendy going to PSG.
Okay, let's do Mendy first.
I don't see Mendy going to PSG. Why do Man City want to get rid of this guy? Yes, he's had a couple of injury problems, but he's better than Sandro. So, you know, common sense tells you don't get rid of one player and bring in an inferior player. So I guess for that reason, I'd have to say no.
Since when did common sense apply in football?
That's true.
I've kind of done Mendy as a no for you because you kind of said...
Correct.
Yeah, thank you. Arnautovic to Chelsea to end with.
Would make absolute sense for Chelsea.
Okay.
And would make absolutely no sense for West Ham. You know, if they're to stay in the Premier League, because they look as though they're going to be in a dogfight for most of the year, then this guy has to stay. If they want to stay in the Premier League, West Ham, he has to stay. But if you're Chelsea, you have to go and get him. I think he would fit in fantastic. His attitude, he's got the kind of an attitude that's infectious. People say he's moody, but I'll tell you what, I'll have a moody guy that scores goals and upsets the opposition any day over a Giroud or a Morata, who I wouldn't be that bothered about playing against. So this is not going to happen, but
it would make sense.
It would make sense for Chelsea.
Anthony Martial of Manchester United playing well just now alongside Stevie Nicol. Going to talk about his future. Maybe a 5-year deal with United, maybe somewhere else. If you were him, what would you be thinking right now? Stay or go?
I think he should stay. The main reason being, I don't think that if I'm him, and I'm sure he's thinking along the lines that I am, that Mourinho's going to be there that long. That means the chances of him getting more game time and being able to produce consistent performances goes way through the roof compared to what it is under Mourinho. He has no idea week to week whether he's going to start, whether he's going to come off the bench, whether he's going to be in the squad. And as I said, the main factor for me is that Mourinho will not be there for that much longer, and I think he should stay.
I want to take a look at Anthony Martial's last 4 seasons and how he's done. And his goal ratio is actually pretty good, especially when you consider the starts compared to the goals. Just before you talk about that, where would you play him? What's his best position?
I think his best position is where he's actually being played whenever he does get on the field, and that's wide on the left-hand side, running at defenders. If I'm a defender, he's a guy I don't want running at me. He's got pace, he can come inside and get a shot, and he also can go by you on the outside. So, yeah, for me, where he plays is the left-hand side going forward.
Do you think he's been underutilised? Because he only started 18 league games last season, and as a result of that, he didn't make the World Cup squad.
I think the honest truth is that he hasn't been consistent enough when he's been on the field, and that's why he hasn't been used as much as he would like.
Consistency comes with regular game time, though, and you could argue, we were talking about his stats, he rarely plays 90 minutes. That can be easy for a player to build up a level of consistency.
When you play for a team like Manchester United, every time you step on the field, you're expected to play at a certain level. He hasn't been able to do that, and that's why he's found his time limited. It's really that simple. If he was playing at a Southampton or anywhere else, a team like that, then it's less noticeable. It gets less attention. At Manchester United, you have to play well and you have to win. And when you're not playing well and you're not winning, the finger's pointed at you.
Just finally, the way that United are playing right now, away from the Chelsea game, their league position isn't the best. They didn't look good against Juventus, but they're still one of the biggest clubs in the world. That's the pull for him to stay, isn't it?
100%.
He's got a year option. Well, United have got a year option at the end of this season, which they're going to take, and then he's out of contract in 2020. Looks like a new 5-year deal could be offered pretty soon for him to stay at Old Trafford.